back, everyone, to the A.D.D. show. We're not always right, but we're never wrong. As always, I'm Mark.
And I'm Hans, and we have a Super Bowl champion. We actually have a Super Bowl 7-time champion while we're at it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Super Bowl 55. We're going to talk a little bit about some off-season stuff with the NFL. We'll also get into some comparisons with Tom Brady and like what 7 championships mean in U.S. American sports, and just a couple rambling on. So how are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing pretty good. I enjoyed the Super Bowl, but it wasn't as close as I don't think anybody thought it was going to be.
No, I mean, I was thoroughly, I don't want to say intrigued, but it was definitely not what I expected at all.
Yeah. It was one of those games where I picked Tampa Bay to win, and I thought it was going to be close. I didn't think Tampa Bay offensively did anything that made it so you could say, oh, yeah, there it is. They played perfect football, both sides of the ball. They dink and dunked their way down the field, couldn't be stopped, play action, running the ball, and the Chiefs got tired on defense. And defensively, that was arguably one of the best defensive performances I have ever seen in a Super Bowl. And that's going on not the best defensive team to ever play, but that's saying the best offense by far in the NFL got shut down by this defense. 3 field goals, that's it. And it wasn't even like the game was close.
I think a lot of it has to do with how, I mean, again, Tampa Bay's defense was lights out. I mean, they were over every receiver. I mean, still, I look at it over here that they still almost had 2 receivers with 100 yards each. Kelsey had all the catches in the world, but again, the hard part is when you're playing from so far behind, all you can do is throw the ball. Patrick Mahomes threw it 50 times, right? But the thing is, for me, it's like, I think this game could have been a lot better. I definitely was expecting it to be a lot better, but here's the issue. The issue is, I don't care what team you're on. You're playing a defense that good, you need to have at least some form of, I would say at least a high school eligible offensive lineman. Their offense was decimated.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not taking away anything from Tampa. You have to do your job. These are professionals, whether they're backups or not, and you cannot allow, here's what I've written down, you allowed 3 sacks, 5 tackles for losses, 9 pass deflections, and 10 quarterback hits on Mahomes.
Yep.
That is unreal. No matter how good your offensive line is for Chiefs, I don't care how banged up it is.
Yep.
You can't allow that even if you're all backups. You can't do that.
No.
So I'm not saying it's because Kansas City didn't have their O-line healthy. That's a huge blow. But however, even without it, Patrick Mahomes was just hurried the whole game. He couldn't do anything right. And then their defense couldn't stop Tom Brady. So if both your ends of the field suck, one of them has to step up, and neither one did.
Yeah.
And it was just, unfortunately, I'm happy for Brady, but
I will say this. Todd Bowles, we were joking about it, talking about it, that he should have been the MVP of the season of the Super Bowl, the defensive coach
absolutely.
for the Tampa Bay. Now, I do have something crazy that they played 8 quarters against each other this year, okay? And everybody looks at it as, oh, Tyreek Hill had 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, blah, 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 all this stuff. First quarter, 17-0. The next 7 quarters, Tampa Bay outscored them 55-19. That is figuring it out. That is showing that, okay, we are going back to basics. We're not blitzing. We're not getting cute. We are going to bull rush your offensive line. We are going to have our linebackers, sit in the middle of the field and our safeties deep. And you're not going to beat us. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And Kansas City did not have an answer for this.
Yeah.
And I will say, you said, Kelsey and Hill had over 100 yards.
Almost 100 yards, yeah.
How much of that was in absolute garbage time in the fourth quarter where they backed up? Now, Kelsey legit was catching the ball, but I saw so many times that Mahomes running for his life, he throws it, it's an accurate throw, hits the guy in the face mask. The guy drops it. Defense, it was, so yeah, offensive line, that's a big deal. But for 3 quarters in a game where they had their offensive line, they dominated that game.
Oh,
and
I
then,
understand.
So it is a big deal because Mahomes was, I felt bad for the guy.
Yeah.
I
I don't have it written down. I did have it. I just never wrote it down. I think it was like 9 dropped passes.
Yeah.
And again, I've talked about it in earlier episodes when I was talking about the Cowboys and all. A dropped pass to the league is considered a catchable ball. Not tipped off the fingertips. We're talking catchable ball. 9 dropped passes. Tampa had 1.
Yep.
So that's the thing where it's like you have to make these plays, like that Pringle catch, like Bud, you have to make that catch, right? Yeah. And then my other part to this was, I've said it for years. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care what the team is. I am huge on offensive line where this game should have been closer, but this is the problem. Tom Brady had an average of 4.5 seconds per play before he had to throw the ball. Patrick Mahomes didn't have 2. Right. Now, no. It makes it seem like a takeaway from Brady. I'm not taking away from Tampa Bay. They played the better game. What I'm saying is it sucks for Mahomes when you only have 2. You don't even have your full step drop back, and you're already being pressured.
Right.
It's hard to win.
So here's the thing, though. Okay, in the 17-0 first quarter, Brady was beat up in that first quarter, and then what Tampa Bay decided to do, Leftwich and Brady and Bruce Arians. Boom, boom, boom. Get it out of his hands quicker. Get it, quick passes, not waiting for the home run. Run the ball, play action. Boom,
I don't know
boom,
why
boom.
Casey didn't do that.
You got to make adjustments. But you can't just say, I have Patrick Mahomes, he's going to get the job done, and Tyreek Hill's going to run past everybody.
And here's my opinion of Tampa Bay, too. They have a good defense. But I think, honestly, their secondary is probably their weakest link. And what I mean by weakest link, they're still really good. So I think they kept targeting the outside because when you do that dink and dunk, Devin White's there. What's the other kid, 54? Their other linebacker.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Every time they went there, dude, he was every play.
Yeah.
Pass deflection. So then you
can make it down the field. And
I know.
If you're making the defense come forward.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, and then you can hit that home run. And to be completely honest, CEH was having a really good game.
9 for 64.
He was running the ball well.
Yeah.
And you weren't getting blown out. It was 21-9 to start after their first possession of the second half. That is not getting blown out. That is not let's throw away the game plan and start over, and just chuck the ball. I think their game plan the whole time was we're going to chuck the ball. And because we don't have the offensive line, we can't run it. But what they proved was he could run the ball.
This is the thing, is if you have a decent running back, and I'm going to say top 20, top 25 in the league, which I don't really want to get into where CH is out in top 20, whatever. The point is when you have a decent running back, let him run the ball. Because I've learned in years of playing football, and you've watching football forever, if your O-line is not very good, why are you trying to throw it deep? First off, I get it. You want to rainbow spiral it and let Tyreek run into it. But if you only have 2 seconds to get rid of the ball, you need to do dink and dunks to your 3 tight ends, quick little shots to Tyreek. Why is Tyreek always downhill? Catch it short. Stuff like that. I don't understand why. I don't think Casey specifically played terribly, right? I'm not going to say that. I think Tampa Bay and Arians had the better game plan, especially Todd Bowles. Yep. And I've said this for years. Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. Was not a good coach, and not everybody is.
He was a decent coach
he
for
was
the
okay.
Jets.
I know.
They weren't awful.
But when he was there, their offense was terrible. But they had a top 5 defense with the Jets that year.
Yes.
But in general, they had the better game plan. I think Tampa Bay was way more prepared.
Yeah.
And hopefully Casey learns from this. And if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to Andy Reid's house and I'm saying, I love my deal. I want to be here forever. I'm not saying I don't. Obviously, my deal's 10 years long. I want all the money spent on O-line. I know that dude's coming back who sat out. Eric Fisher will be back next year, but they got to get somebody. You got to bring in more help because if you want to have a quarterback career last, look at Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
Because of the reason, same thing with Tom Brady, one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league. Make your linemen be held accountable because Patrick Mahomes will not last if he gets hit like last night.
Right.
Or 2 nights ago.
Yeah. I agree. I do have to say that he tried his best.
Oh, absolutely.
He gave his players time to get open by running around crazy.
He left it all on the field.
But it was, White to me proved that he's probably, if not the best, top 2-3 linebackers in the league. Easy. That dude is a beast. That defensive line showed up. And they didn't blitz. They blitzed, I think, 5 times all night. And
are you talking all-out blitzes?
No, they blitzed. Like, they brought more than just 4 people 5 times.
I say, because they had 3 men down. They had Devin White. They had a couple one dude at a time blitzing, but not full blitzing. I only saw that twice.
It's one of those things where I looked at it, and that defensive line, the defensive lineman said, we'll get there.
And they did.
Don't worry about it. We'll get there. And they must be tired as hell because every play they were there. And it was one of the most dominating defensive performances I've ever seen in a Super Bowl.
In a Super Bowl, yeah. And this is the thing we talked about the episode last week. We were sitting here right here in the same chair saying the difference of this game, and I told you this, was going to be Kansas City's offense, Tampa Bay's defense. I knew Kansas City's defense would be able to stop a couple drives of Brady. I knew they'd allow, I said 25 points was my guess, right? But however, Tampa Bay's offense did fine. The problem was what we thought was going to be the difference maker. Clearly, Tampa Bay won that battle. Yeah. And I was like, it's going to come down to where? It wasn't Tyreek and it wasn't Antoine Winfield. No. I said it was going to come down to the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. And I can tell you overwhelmingly, Tampa Bay embarrassed the line of the Chiefs. Yep. And that is exactly why Patrick Mahomes was limping the whole game, because he was just getting his ass kicked the whole game.
And Brady did enough. Yeah. Should he have been MVP? No, I think Leonard Fournette had a better game. I think he was more valuable. But Brady played flawless football. He played flawless quarterback football. He didn't make any mistakes. He hit the right guy. And the thing that Kansas City did after, week 12 when they played Kansas City. So the thing that Tampa Bay did that was very smart was they sat down and they said, Tom, what do you see? And they said they had the off week. Him and Leftwich and Bruce Arians sat down, and Brady said, this is what I see. Like, let me do it. Give me the play you want, but let me see what they're doing and let me change things up. Let me play the way I know I can play. I will get us there. And the thing is reports are that he sat down with the defense watching tape of Kansas City, and he's saying where they should be, where they're going. And he was, and like when you have somebody like Tom Brady that is, I hate to say genius, but he's football smart. He sees it before you see it, sort of like Peyton Manning did. Like Manning could get to the line of scrimmage and be like, all right, boom, do a little hand signal to Marvin Harrison.
That's why for the whole year we've done this show. That's why I've compared a lot of times not talent. I mean, I'm not saying championship wise. I've compared LeBron and Tom Brady a lot alike, because when they're stepping past half court line or Tom Brady's walking up, LeBron already knows what you're gonna do. He knows your tendencies, just like Brady does. Brady knew the tendencies of Kansas City's defense, and everywhere you were supposed to be, he put his receivers 1 inch over. Right. Like he just knew what you were gonna do. And Kansas City was much more less prepared than Tampa Bay was, and it was clear. And I thought in the first 2 or 3 drives, each team went 3 and out. I actually thought it was going to be a little bit better, but then out of nowhere, man, it was over. And also, I know you said Fournette. He had 89 yards and a TD and had 46 yards receiving. I know it was only 6 for 67, but Gronk had 2 touchdowns. Yep. Gronk easily could have been the MVP too, because both of his touchdowns, one was wide open, the other one was a great catch in the end zone as well. I just, even Brady, if you look at the stat line, okay, Brady almost had a perfect passer rating. It's because his yards were low. Fournette had a perfect running back game with 4 catches. Gronk had a perfect wide receiver game.
Jones had 60-something yards on the ground. So they had almost 140 yards or just over 140 yards on the ground.
So usually the number you want in a football game that you'll win is 250 yards passing, no interceptions, and 150 yards rushing. Right. That's a winning game, and you'll probably win every time.
Yep, and they went over one thing in the broadcast that I wanted to bring. It was sort of saying what Brady saw. They were putting Fournette out, having him go out after the fake handoff and having him go out. And they kept saying, watch, if the linebacker turns his back and starts running, Brady's dunking it to Fournette. He goes, if the linebacker stays, he's throwing it to, the wide receiver, or he's throwing it to Gronk. And they showed 2 plays on ESPN the other day. One was to Fournette for 15 yards, and one was to Gronk where he almost busted it for a touchdown. And he said, watch the linebacker. And as soon as the linebacker turned to run with Gronk, he dunked it down to Fournette. Yep. And then 5 plays later, the linebacker sees Fournette come out. The linebacker comes forward. Boom. Gronk's wide open on the seam, running down the field, and gets tripped up at the end to not get a touchdown. And you see, what's his name? The Badger, Honey Badger.
Oh, Tyrann Mathieu.
Throw his hands up when the throw to Gronk. He's like, where are you? And the guy's like point. He's like, Fournette was right here. And it's like, so the defense is expecting the linebacker to go with him, and they weren't covering the running backs. And that's why,
the proper word for that is called preparation. One team was more prepared than the other, and it's clear that in every facet of the game, nobody on Kansas City kept up with any player on Tampa Bay. Not one position.
No.
And to be honest, I know he threw 2 interceptions, but in general, running for his life, Mahomes didn't have that bad of a game. And the 2 interceptions he threw weren't with his feet set. This was running out of the pocket, running for his life.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I have never seen a quarterback get pressured that much in a game. I haven't seen it in a long time. It was pretty bad. The other thing I wanted to say was, and I'm not here to... I have done this before, and I'm going to do my best not to do this. It's not the reason they lost the game, but I can tell you one reason why they were behind early. Kansas City had 9 penalties in the first quarter. First half, sorry. Whether or not I agree with half of them, same thing with Tampa Bay. 3 of the penalties for Tampa Bay I didn't agree with. I don't agree with a lot of penalties in the league. It's too soft. But you had 11 Kansas City penalties to 4 Tampa Bay penalties. And I had it written down. I didn't write it down. 8 of the Kansas City penalties were not holding and were not off the sides. Pass interference and holding downfield. So you're talking more than they had. I didn't write it down. It was like for 180 yards in penalties. You're not going to win a game. I don't care if you're not playing well. You can't have that many penalties.
But I also said it last week when we were talking about it. I said Kansas City was unraveling against Buffalo.
Yeah.
And you saw it. They were unraveling. They weren't disciplined.
Yeah.
They weren't disciplined at all. They were, getting in their faces. They were, and it was sort of like, what do you think you're doing type thing, or that we're Kansas City, and everything.
A lot of teams, that's what happens. I started seeing a lot of pass interference calls. To me, when you have pass interference or holding within 10 yards of the line, it tells me you're not good enough to keep up with the wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's all it tells me. And no offense to Matthew, he had 2 pass interference calls on him. Like, you can't be doing that. Like, I don't...
And they were I hate people that say, oh, well, look at this. It's, like somebody slowed down and took a picture of the pass interference to Evans going down the sideline. It was right before the guy grabbed his foot as he's falling down.
Yeah.
He takes it. He didn't even touch him. Okay, not even a second later, he lands on his foot and trips him. Like, balls uncatchable, this, that. No, you can't say that. It was the calls to me were calls.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be made. You can't.
I understand. I have nothing against the penalties. They exist for a reason. They call the game for a reason. What I don't like about penalties is when, I don't care if it's Tampa Bay, I don't care if it's any team, I don't care. Even if it's my own team, I've called them out on it. I don't like when my wide receiver is running downfield, and especially Amari Cooper is good at this, pushing off the defender, and the defender grabs the jersey. They both cause pass interference, but the defense gets the call, and we get 20 yards. I get it, we get 20 yards, but pass interference you should be good enough to make the play with somebody touching you. And I'm not saying holding and pulling on you, touching you. Jerry Rice would be so embarrassed with the wide receiver play these days, because I get so mad with 4 or 5 times a game. Somebody's like, he touched me.
Okay, but that's every.
I know.
I mean,
but you should be good enough to get up and get that ball with someone touching your shirt.
It doesn't matter. It's the rules of the game.
No. I'm saying these are the rules. Kansas City had 11 penalties. That's their fault. What I'm saying is, I may not agree that every single play is pass interference because you just breathed on the wide receiver. But again, that's the game, and you can't do it. Is what I'm saying. Kansas City.
They changed the rules for the fantasy football people to make it so there's more yards, there's more this, there's more that, and so you can't complain when it happens against your team. You can't complain that it's happening, because it happens.
I hate that it happens. Even on my team. I don't like when anybody does it.
It's just, you can't impede the wide receiver from running his route. Plain and simple, after 5 yards. So if you're playing 10 yards back and he's running at you, either you move or you get called for the penalty. It's just the way it is. It's, and
I'd say 80% of the pass interference calls are absolutely pass interference. I'm just saying there's a lot of them where they're just side by side, like almost sumo wrestling. They're just like bumping shoulders, and they call that.
But you can't, people that complain about penalties can't have it both ways. Okay, oh, we got to let them play. Okay, then you let them play, and look what happened in New Orleans 3 years ago.
That's a completely different call.
It was pass interference, and they didn't call it. They let them play.
I know, but I'm saying there's a difference between egregious pass interference and just being pushed a little bit.
You can't.
I know.
You can't have it both ways.
If the refs did their job,
you don't call the penalty, or you do call the penalty. People are going to complain either way.
I understand.
And if it wasn't the fact that it was, Kansas City fans are complaining, the only people that would be complaining right now are Kansas City fans about those penalties. But the fact that it was Brady, now everybody's complaining, oh, the NFL's rigged, this, that, the other thing. No.
NFL's not rigged. I got pissed at about 7 of the pass interference calls in that game from both teams. Half of them are egregious.
I just look at it as the better team.
Oh, absolutely.
The better prepared team won. They may not have been the better team, but
they were the better team.
They dominated that game, and I don't think it was even. I don't even think 31-9 was even as close as what the game was. I don't think I ever saw it after it was 14-3. I don't think I ever said, "Oof, this is still in doubt." Like I really thought, like, okay, well,
I think what I saw from the beginning was, I think a lot of it had Kansas City. I think went in. I think they might have went in prepared, but I think what they didn't go in prepared, I think they had a game plan. Does that make sense? They have a plan. But I think what they weren't prepared for was 8 of those penalties in the first quarter, 4 of them in the first quarter, and all of them were on third down. Like, you kept making your drive shorter and shorter and shorter. Right. So now you're behind because when Brady gets on the field, Brady doesn't make mistakes. So then Kansas City gets the ball to recover. Right. Let's score. And then boom, another holding call on the offensive line. Like, you guys have to clean this up.
Yeah.
Their mistakes early. And then Tom Brady led on the fire, and then there was no catching back up. I don't think it started off as far apart as it was, because it was a good game in the first quarter. But every time Kansas City was about to get a first, they had another penalty, another third down penalty. And then by that point, you're down by 20 points. And there's no coming back from that.
Right.
And then when you're down by 20 points, Tampa Bay said, we got a plan for you. Now we're going to make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable. And that's what I saw. Tom Brady and the Kansas City was better. Tom Brady and Tampa Bay was a better team, more prepared, and every position they played better. And again, I told you, Kansas City had 1 sack, Tampa Bay had 3. Kansas City had 3 tackles for losses, Tampa Bay had 5. Here's the big one. Kansas City had 1 pass deflection. 1.
Yep.
Tampa Bay had 9. And then Kansas City had 2 quarterback hits. Tampa Bay had 10.
Right.
That's the difference of the game right there.
Yeah.
The defense is the difference. You didn't show up, and Tampa Bay's defense was swarming. So that was one of my favorite Super Bowls. I wish it would have been a little bit closer, but again, Tom Brady gets his 7th championship ring, and again, like we were talking about in the group, and during the game they even talked about it, is that's just an elite company of any sport to just be the best at your sport. Like, undoubtedly, you are better than anyone else who's ever put on a uniform for your sport. Your sport specifically, you're the best at it. Yeah. And that's pretty cool.
So it was something I found on the internet the other day. It was about Brady. Mm-hmm. Super Bowls, 7-3, 10 Super Bowls, 3,000 yards, 21 TDs, 6 interceptions, and 97 passer rating. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned it when I texted
it was
this.
me.
That's somebody's season.
Yeah, that's like Baker Mayfield's season this year. Or Dak's second year was that.
It was like, and that's in 10 games. Mm-hmm. So that's not even a full season. Mm-hmm. That is unbelievable to me. And
that he has his own season stats in one Super Bowl, in all of his Super Bowl games.
In all his Super Bowls. And I'm looking at it as, and our friend Malik says it all the time. He says it's not close. Even if Brady lost this Super Bowl, he's still the greatest of all time. And
oh, yeah.
I agree with him, but now people are saying now it's unquestionably Brady is the greatest. I don't think you can look at his career and say he's not the greatest. Now the Brady haters will say this. I heard somebody say the other day, Brady's last 2 Super Bowl wins, the defense didn't allow a touchdown. Okay.
It's a team sport.
Yeah, but you're looking at it. They beat the Rams. And what was it, 17-6? Something like that. And then they beat the Chiefs 31-9.
What you're explaining is one of the most aggravating things in sports. It didn't aggravate me, but what I'm saying is it happens all the time, even in our friend group. People are like, well, can you be considered the best? And I beat this dead horse about my own team. It is not a one-person game. It is a team sport. So again, it's
one person makes the difference.
I get that. No.
But to your argument, this Tampa Bay team was 7-9 last year.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had horrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
Well, not horrible. He threw for almost 5,000 yards.
I'm telling you, if Jameis Winston had 20 interceptions, they'd have had 13 wins. And 12 wins.
So you're looking at Tom Brady coming in, and Bruce Arians said it right from the gate. And he said it in a post-game interview after the Super Bowl. He said Tom Brady came in, and he demanded greatness. Mm-hmm. He said, we are going to do this, and you are going to be on board. And he said even players that sort of were like, oh, well, we might be a year away, we might be this, we might be that. They weren't playing, until they got on board. And Brady demanded that they play better. And people like Mike Evans, Godwin, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, they bought into a system of, I don't care who gets the ball as long as we win.
Yeah.
I'm prepared. I'm going to be there when they need me. And, I mean, Evans is, a consummate professional. Yeah. I mean, he was averaging, 100 receptions a year, over 1,000, 1,000 yards, multiple touchdowns. And this year, he was a shell of himself, stats-wise. But he said, I don't care. And now he's come out and said, I'll restructure my contract to get the free agents that we're losing back.
Yeah.
And so to me, that is them looking at, okay, I see what we can do if we don't worry about us, if we worry about the team and it's not about me. And that is huge for a team. And, I don't think you can understate that one person makes that difference. One person's demeanor during a game makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And I don't care who you are. You're down 28-3 in a Super Bowl to Atlanta. You're watching the other sideline. They're hype. And your sideline. And Brady's not letting you hang your head.
Yeah.
Brady's yelling at you saying, come on, let's go. Let's go. And then people like Edelman are saying, this is going to be the greatest comeback of all time. We've got this. This is going to be epic. Nobody was hanging their head.
No.
That's because your leader,
yeah,
the person that everybody looks to the most, is the quarterback on every single team, and they see that demeanor, they see that work ethic, and they're like, damn, okay, I got to do this. Yeah. And that's why Tampa Bay won. I
understand.
And Brady was the difference in that team. And they can say they brought in Gronk, they brought in
No,
A.D.
they don't matter.
How much of those two, like Leonard Fournette made a difference, you can say, for bringing in, but how much did AB and Gronk's actually
best game was this one.
Yeah, and
he had like 11 catches all year. It seems he didn't really get the ball that much.
Right,
he really didn't. No, I agree with you. The part that I was reiterating towards was you said a lot of people like, well, his defense hasn't allowed any points in the last 2 Super Bowl games or any touchdowns. Okay, but my rebuttal to that is that's why it's called a team sport.
Yeah,
you need your whole team again. So like, I don't care if you go out and have 5,000 yards. That's fantastic. But if your defense allows 30 points a game, this would have been completely different if Tom Brady's defense let Patrick Mahomes have 5 TDs. Then people are like, well, Tom Brady's not good. Well, Tom Brady still played great. Let's say Patrick Mahomes had 270, but 5 TDs in this game and won. Would you say Tom Brady's terrible? He didn't throw an interception.
Right.
So my point is, it's a team sport. Tom Brady has to do his job, and everyone else has to do their job. If everybody does their job, you win games. Yep. However, Tom Brady has that little bit of a fire that's different than other quarterbacks, where he can instill that fire. That's what I was saying. But people to say, well, his defense did this. Bruh, Eli Manning's defense won him 2 Super Bowls. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And one lucky catch that I've never seen happen. Actually, the 2 best catches I've ever seen happen was Odell Beckham Jr. and then the Super Bowl catch.
Yeah.
My point is, you can't just say, well, Tom Brady's defense, that's so annoying. I've disliked Brady for years, but not because of who he is, but because I'm tired of him being in every Super Bowl in my childhood. I'm going to miss him when he's gone, sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, my Super Bowls that are my favorite are when he's not there. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, okay, you're going to win. Get it. You beat the game. You're at the credits. Take his power cord. Take his controller away. He's done. You've done it.
Yep.
He's like, I'm coming back. For what? You've done it. What are you just trying to be like, oh, I got 8 rings. I mean, I got 10 rings. Like,
but when you love
what
you do and you have the fire for it,
I get it.
Why leave?
I get it.
At
this point, he's just padding the stats.
I mean, at this point, he's just doing it just to show you, hey, if you take care of yourself,
you can play to your 45
you
and
can
beyond.
And there's not going to be that drop off.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And you said you had some interesting things about individual titles.
Yeah. So I went through this list I found online of sports in America, and again, people have their argument of what a sport is, and I'm saying American professional sports. So that doesn't include. It does. I was going to put tennis and those kind of sports on there as well, but the problem is like they have 3 titles of Wimbledon, 3 U.S. Open, 3 this. There isn't one championship type thing. Okay. Golf, there isn't just I get Masters, but there's so many big events. We're talking just an overall season where you win and you move on, right?
Okay.
So these are all people. I didn't write down how many, but they all have at least 7 championships or more playing in a sport. Mickey Mantle, Lance Armstrong. Didn't he lose his for like drugs or something though?
Yeah, I mean,
but he still won 7.
Is the Tour de France an American sport?
I guess you're right. I guess it isn't.
But
he did compete in the Olympics. He is an American.
Yeah.
I almost put down a IndyCar driver too, Lewis Hamilton, but he's not. He lives in Britain. He's a British person. He's not an American, so I didn't put him down either. But we'll put Lance Armstrong, Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra.
Yep.
Earnhardt, Petty, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Russell, Robert Horry, Babe Ruth, and now Tom Brady. Now, we were all joking around about Robert Horry the other day. People in the group were making jokes about it. But like in general, every single one of these have at least 7 championships in their respective sport or race, whatever people want to call it. And you can't. Every single one of these names you've heard of.
Yeah.
And every single one of these names will go down in, if they had an all-sports Hall of Fame, that I don't care if it's baseball, I don't care if it's tennis, I don't care if it's basketball, I don't care if it's auto racing. 7 championships in any of these sports is ridiculous. Yeah. First off, you are in an elite company above everyone else. And this is just the non-coaches. I almost did a list of coaches. Gino Auriemma, what's the dude? Is it Art Bryant? I think that's his name, right? Bear Bryant, thank you. Yep. There's like 30, 40 coaches that had 7 championships. Yep. Going back to even the dude who passed away in the 30s for Notre Dame. I can't remember his name now. The coach they had. Not Lou Holtz. That was
no.
He died. He died like a plane crash, what it was. He had 7 undefeated seasons in 8 years and won 7 titles.
Right.
But just this list here, and I didn't add all these people to make Tom Brady look worse. That's what I'm saying. But if I read that list again, how many of them are in the NFL? None of them. He is the only one in his sport. So he is undoubtedly, to me, the best football player.
Well, to be fair, he has more Super Bowl rings than any team.
That's why
in the NFL. So, I mean, if you did 6, I don't even think if you did 6, you would have an NFL player on there. Because I don't think there was no Steelers in the 70s and in the 2000s. There was no Cowboys in the 70s and the 90s.
Isn't the only player to have 5 Haley?
Does it? Yeah, because he played for San Francisco and he played for Dallas.
Yeah, so he's got 5.
I think he has 5.
And nobody else has more than 4.
Right.
So even so, when he won his 5th, again, as a quarterback, you're going to get more biased over Charles Haley. But in general, when he won his 6th, to me, it was undoubtedly the best player in the sport. Now you win 7 at 43 years old.
Yep.
There's only 1, 2, 3.
And
almost everybody on that list pretty much won their titles, their 7th, if not more, at around the same age.
Right.
These are greatest.
I think Brady this move is sort of Brady going at Manning saying, okay, so the only thing you have over me is that you won 2 titles, 1 in each league. Or no, one with 2 different teams. He goes, hold my beer. Yeah. Because I'm gonna win one in the opposite league for a different team than what I won. He goes, so now you have nothing over me.
So what we need Brady to do now is we need Brady to leave Tampa Bay next year, win another title. He'll have his 8th, right? He needs to leave, and he needs to go to, okay, so you did it with the Patriots with a Hall of Fame coach, okay? Yeah. Then you come to Tampa Bay, people are like, man, he went to a bad team. I need people to understand Tampa Bay was not a bad team before he got there.
No.
They had a really bad quarterback who threw the ball to the other team. They already had a top 5 defense. Yep. So I'm not saying he went, I'm not taking away from Brady. Now I want to see Brady leave and just decimate everyone and say, you know what? I'm going to the Jets. And then if he can do it there, dude, even now he's undoubtedly the GOAT. But my point is, I don't know if this man's ever going to quit playing. But the reason I wanted to do this list, and I brought it up with the guys, was every single one of these names you've heard, and they've been put into your ear since you were a kid. Maybe not as much Robert Horry, but...
It's Horry.
Horry? Okay, sorry. It has an H. I don't know. I didn't watch him, so I don't know. But my point is, these are GOATs of their respective sports, in American sports. Yeah. And their names will carry legacies with them where people are going to, when I was a kid growing up, I used to ask my dad, who obviously never really watched much baseball, but I asked about Yogi Bear. I heard the name. I heard the names Penny. I heard the names Earnhardt's. I heard these names. I don't know anything about them until I got older, but I was like, these were names passed down. And Tom Brady's going to be a name that my kid's going to know about. Yeah. He's going to be like, Dad, how was Tom Brady? I'm like, he was a freaking cheat code, man. He beat everybody. He didn't have a crazy arm. He didn't have a crazy legs. What he did was he was smarter than everyone else on his field. Yep. And he won and studied better than anybody that's ever played the game. And so that's why I wanted to make this list. I think it's just interesting that there's so many in baseball, there's so many in racing, there's so many in basketball, there's 1 in football.
Yep. Now, and that tells you mentioned baseball. Mm-hmm. There's nobody that's not a Yankee on that list.
No, there isn't. And there was many more I could have put that won 6.
Yeah, so
there was a lot that won 5.
I don't think anyone, like maybe the Dodgers, but I don't think the Dodgers. The Yankees, to me, are in Yankee greats. You're looking at some of the best players to ever play baseball and all-time greats.
I could have filled this page up with the Yankees players that won 5 or less.
Yeah,
I could have filled this page, and I have 10 people listed here. There was a few for Boston, but they only had 5 or 6, and there was somebody. I think it was Yogi Berra. I think has more championships than anybody on this list.
Yeah, because he
was a coach and won
Yep.
3 as a coach, I think. So I think he has 10. Well, I guess Bill Russell has, 10 or 12 or something crazy?
Russell has 11.
11. Babe Ruth, I think, had 9.
Yeah.
8 or 9. So either way, people are like, well, Babe Ruth won in the 30s. Or I had another friend of mine text me the day when I sent him this list. He was like, well, Petty won race in the 60s. He was like, I don't care if it's the 1800s.
Yep.
You won 7 titles in a sport that no one else can do what you do.
Right.
So the respect is there. I don't care if it's luge. 7 championships in any sport is incredible.
Yeah.
It means you're better than your peers. And this is something where I've said for years how much I do dislike Brady at times. And it's because I witnessed greatness, and the whole time I was so disrespectful to his career that I realized he's about to be gone, and I didn't truly enjoy his career because I truly disliked him for years. And I don't want to do that with the next Tom Brady. I want to enjoy it because it's going to be gone before I know it.
Yep.
So that's why I wanted that list. But I know you have a cool list over there.
Yeah, and so piggybacking on how important the quarterback is in football.
Yep.
Okay, and it is the most important position in football. If you have a good quarterback, you have a good team. Okay, I don't care. And it could be an average quarterback, and you win the Super Bowl because you have a good defense or whatever.
I know, messing with you.
But I wrote every single team down. Okay, and I wrote down their starting quarterback.
There's a lot of question marks on that page.
And then I wrote question marks next to a few teams that actually don't have a quarterback and or are in heavy discussions with moving on from their quarterback. So I'm just going to start with the AFC East and just let you know. Buffalo has Allen. Miami has Tua. I really almost put a question mark next to Tua, but Miami hasn't really said anything saying they're moving on from Tua.
Yeah.
It's been more of everybody in the media saying, oh, well, Miami has the most draft capital and Tua, so why don't we trade him for Watson?
Yeah, I think the reason why Miami was brought up, because in general, if you look across the league, no offense to DC, I think Miami has the best to offer for Watson.
Yeah.
They have the best. They have defensive players they can give up, whereas Washington is younger, and I don't think they want to give up those key defensive players, whereas...
Right.
So Tua could be that, but I think as of right now, no question mark because they haven't said anything.
Right. New England doesn't have a quarterback on their roster right now that is going to start. I mean, you're not going to start Stidham.
I want you to go through each team, but I want to rebuttal. I talked about this with a client. He's actually a Patriots fan. I met him the other day. We had the same conversation. What does New England do? What does New England do? He's like, dude, I don't know. He's like, I like if Mac Jones is available in that pick. I was like, okay.
Patriots aren't going to draft.
So they're
going to pick up one of these quarterbacks on this list.
So what I told him I think New England should do is I think they should sign 2 quarterbacks. I think they should sign for a league minimum Fitzpatrick, and I think they should try to sign like 1-year deal with Trubisky or something. Somebody that's like that, or a Bridgewater, or not a Taysom Hill. I'm trying to see who else on that list. Somebody in that middle.
Well, everybody on this list, except for Dak, is under contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why, some of these teams that have a question mark
is meaning if they would trade or replace.
Right. So, and the Jets have Darnold, but it's been reported that they're going to draft a quarterback and they might trade Darnold.
Yeah.
Okay, so the AFC East, you have one solidified starter where it's Allen. Tua, again, he'll start. If he's there, he'll start.
Oh, yeah.
New England, I honestly think New England's going to pick somebody from this list. I think it would be smart for New England to bring back Brissett. Okay.
Oh, that's who I was forgetting. Brissett was the one I wanted to tell you. Yep. That's who he said he'd like to bring in. Brissett and Fitzpatrick.
Everybody links Jimmy G to them. Everybody, and everything. But I'm looking at it as one of these quarterbacks on this list will get cut.
That's not $40 million worth. Yes,
but they'll get cut, and then they'll bring them in at say that league minimum or a little bit more, and say, okay, start for our franchise and move on. So then you have the AFC North, Big Ben. I have a question mark there. Not that I don't think he's going to start for Pittsburgh, but he's too much money right now, and they have heavy discussions to talk about.
They got to restructure that deal.
Yep, and then the rest of the teams are set and young. Lamar in Baltimore, Baker in Cleveland, and Burrow in Cincinnati. Okay? So the only question mark you have there is Big Ben. Now,
at least going into next season, right? This is just going into next year.
Going into next year.
Yeah.
And it's the money issue there and the actual, is he talented enough to lead you to where you, as Pittsburgh, want to go? I don't think he is. I think Big Ben fell off that cliff. I really do. I think he'll have games where he can throw for 300 yards, but I think he's going to have more games where he's under 200.
Now, I want to ask you a quick question because I talked about this the other day. Quick 3-word answer. Even though Big Ben's getting older, he's not really doing that well. Is Tomlin the problem?
For the team, possibly.
He's been there it's been like 10 years since he's been really relevant since that Super Bowl win. So it's almost like, why are they holding on to him so long?
He's one of the winningest coaches in NFL history.
But look at that division that's coming after you.
Right. And
that's the thing.
I move on from Ben
before
I move on from Tomlin.
I just wanted your opinion on that.
Now we're going to go to an interesting division, which is, I don't even know what this is. Is it the South?
Tennessee. AFC South, yeah.
Tennessee has Tannehill for a couple more years. Indianapolis doesn't have a quarterback on their roster. Houston, Watson, but that's a huge question mark because Watson's going to sit out if they don't trade him. And then Jacksonville, I wrote Lawrence because that's pretty much a guarantee.
If they don't take Lawrence, the Jets are about to be the most exciting team in the league.
Right, but I look at Jacksonville as, Lawrence.
Yeah.
So there, you have 2 out of the 4 teams that are huge question marks, and you got to give Tannehill, what do you have with him? Can he get you to where you need to go? And, you're going to lose Corey Davis. He's not going to I don't think he re-signs with you unless he can't get the money he's thinking he deserves somewhere else. You have Derrick Henry, but the way he plays, he's only got a couple years, in my opinion, left at dominance.
Yeah, and their defense is pretty much under contract.
But their defense is horrible.
Yeah.
Their defense is horrible.
It was better last year, 2019, than it was last year. It definitely took a downturn because that was their downfall in the playoffs.
Yep. And then you got the West, you got Mahomes. Question mark with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Not that Derek Carr isn't good, but Las Vegas is trying to get somebody else in there.
I did read a report that now they might like to trade Mariota or drop off Mariota and keep Carr. I was just reading that from like an NFL reporter. I don't know how. These are reports. So
you're going to hear all sorts of things now with these quarterbacks saying, "Oh, well, we'll keep him now because," and possibly yes, they want to keep him, or possibly because they're not getting what they want out of teams for him, and so they're going to say all the right things to say, oh, well, we need to up our ante for him.
This is my thing, too, I want to say with Las Vegas real quick. I don't think Carr is the problem. I think if you look at Carr, other than Amari Cooper, I know they have some talent. Their offense isn't really that talented to me. I really don't think they have that really good number 1 wide receiver. Their line is, and that's my thing, is even tight end Waller's great, but they really don't have a stud wide receiver core. You have Josh Jacobs, who can be very inconsistent at times.
Yep.
I think if you just bring in someone like, I'm not saying a Galladay or a Robinson, or I don't want to say Gallup, he's the next level down, but one of those top 2 or 3 free agent wide receivers, I think Carr can definitely make that team a lot better.
Yes.
He's got no one to throw to, man.
Right. Chargers have Herbert.
Yep.
And Denver doesn't have a quarterback.
No.
Because they don't want Drew Lock.
No, they don't.
They want to move on, and they want a veteran. They don't want to draft again.
I think of all the teams we've named on the AFC side, all the way down, I think what's crazy, the only one drafting a quarterback in the first round is Denver.
Okay, so you don't think the Jets will draft in the first round?
I don't. I think the Jets are going to keep Darnold. I think Indy's going to go after a veteran. I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. And I think I will promise you, if Dak doesn't re-sign with Dallas, the first team calling is Indianapolis, then probably DC, then probably Chicago.
Okay,
that's my opinion. So I think Indianapolis is too good to roll with a late pick, and unless it's like a Trask maybe with a tall quarterback passing quarterback. But I think the only one in the first round, I'm saying, one of those top 5 quarterbacks, I think Denver's the only one that would do it.
So take Ben out of the equation here because Ben's 38.
Yeah.
Going to be 39.
Yeah.
So the next oldest quarterbacks are Carr and Tannehill.
Isn't that crazy?
In that. And then everybody else is 27 and younger. Mm-hmm. In the AFC, that is ridiculous to me that this AFC is so young and technically talented at the quarterback position.
Think about it. Even though Tom Brady's playing into his 40s, most sports are getting a lot younger.
Yes.
Not meaning younger, but I'm saying the younger players are getting better. And I just use these 3 for example, and I'm going to say it, but here, like with the NFL, the younger talent seems to be getting better than the older talent.
Yep.
NBA, the younger talent seems to be better than the older talent. And same thing in motor racing, the sport's younger than ever.
But
these sports are young.
What I'll say is their young talent, we've been talking about it all year in the NFL. And you're right, in the NBA, the young talent is awesome. But I will say this. The Lakers are the favorite to win the championship. They don't think that anybody can beat the Lakers in a 7-game series. No. Okay. And then you go and you say the young talent in the NFL, but then you go and who won the Super Bowl? The oldest player in the oldest quarterback in the NFL.
I'm saying
it's a team sport.
That's what I meant.
But
so yeah,
it's also the young talent at quarterback that you have. You still have to that veteran.
You still got to have veteran presence.
Is still great. So now that is 1, 2, and some of them are starters. So I'll just there's 2, 3 situations where a team doesn't have a quarterback at all. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 where they have a quarterback, but nobody thinks either they're going to be there or there's heavy discussion that they won't be there.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad. When you get into the NFC, it's about the same. Washington, no quarterback on that. I mean, I don't think they're starting the season with Heineke as their quarterback or Allen.
No.
The Giants are invested in Jones. They've said it.
I think that's funny.
Dallas, I wrote Dak, but I put a question mark next to it. That's becoming a dumpster fire even more than what it was fast.
The reports coming out about the Dak situation have been, I'd say probably 3 or 4 of them have been debunked as not true. So I still don't think anybody knows the situation. People followed the Redskins or the DC on social media. That was debunked. He didn't actually do that. That wasn't his profile. So it's just more like the media is getting involved because it's Dallas. You know how that works.
Yep.
I'm just waiting it out, see what happens. Other than there, again, if Dak doesn't stay, Dallas is in a situation to go after a Derek Carr, to go after a quarterback where, no offense, if it's not Dak, go after and trade for Derek Carr. I'm not mad about that.
Right.
Again, he's going to be cheaper. And again, I wouldn't be mad about it. I don't.
Okay.
Again, I want to say that before we move on. I just don't want them to franchise Dak. I'd rather them sign him or let him go. Franchise is too expensive upfront cap space. It's ridiculous.
Okay, and then Philly, I wrote Hurts.
Yeah, I would say Hurts is probably going to be their guy.
So one of these question marks that we have, Wentz will be the starter.
Yes,
I feel.
He'll be a starter in the league.
But I don't think Philly keeps him. I think he's actually gone this week or next week.
I think, to me, he's the first one to drop.
Yeah.
That will then continue the Watson, Carr, maybe
to see
the
what
Wilson's
you can
get.
What is it that is out there that you can get. So then you have the NFC North. Green Bay has Rodgers. Chicago doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah, because they're both. Well, they have Foles. Foles isn't a free agent.
No, but I don't think they start the season with Foles as a starter. They know what they have with Foles, and they, Minnesota has Cousins, but I put a question mark there because they're trying to see what's out there, and they're dangling him for a trade. And Detroit traded for Goff.
Yeah,
so
they're starting Goff.
The starter there. So again, Green Bay is very much head and shoulders over everybody in that division, where in the NFC, it's a question mark. I mean,
NFC East, yeah.
You have 2 starters that are young and unproven. You have a question mark with Dak, and then Washington doesn't have a quarterback yet.
Yeah.
So, and then you move on. New Orleans. I put Taysom Hill.
Taysom. I don't have anything against Hill, but I'm fully vetted. If I was them, I would absolutely start Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't
think Taysom Hill's a quarterback.
I put a question mark there because Winston isn't signed.
He
only signed a 1-year deal, so he's a free agent. So I put a question mark there because I don't think you can go into the season with Hill as your starter.
And remember this, too. Even though Drew Brees is retired, they still owe him money. I think that's what somebody was saying.
No, he took it.
This last year he restructured?
He restructured. He just restructured for the league minimum, so they don't owe him pretty much anything.
But he restructured, and they freed $24 million in cap space.
Right.
Keep an eye on them to be a contender. Let's say Dak did walk.
Yeah.
Watch out for that, because that's the thing. I don't think Taysom Hill's their guy. Maybe Jameis is. Maybe Derek Carr is.
Yep.
Maybe Bridgewater is. I don't know, but I do think they have enough talent to roll with just about anybody, no offense, but Taysom Hill. He doesn't throw the ball enough.
Yep. Tampa Bay, Brady.
Yeah, Brady.
Carolina has Bridgewater under contract, but I put a question mark there because his name is being thrown around out there that he's available. Who wants him?
So Carolina's roster has Bridgewater, PJ Walker from the XFL, and Will Grier. Those are their 3 quarterbacks. All 3 of them young, all 3 of them under contract. The problem is they have the number 5 pick or something crazy, the 8 pick. They're still linked to that Zach Wilson kid. So they're still linked to a quarterback, but I'm like, you have young Bridgewater, you have young Will Grier, and you have young PJ Walker. You're going to bring in another young guy? It's like, You have 3 of them, and you don't know anything about any of them because none of them have played.
Well, Bridgewater...
Except for Bridgewater.
Was Bridgewater signed before they brought in the coach?
Yes.
Okay, so he inherited all 3, and he doesn't like all 3.
Yeah.
So you want to bring in your guy.
Yeah.
I get it. You have to trade Bridgewater before the season.
Yeah. Now, I will be honest, and this isn't just me being a homer here. I was very surprised that Matt Rule didn't roll 1 or 2 games with Will Grier, because when Will Grier transferred from Florida to go to West Virginia, Baylor was one of the ones very invested in trying to get him. Yep. That he did say, Matt Rule, he's like, last time you played me, you torched me. Like, he said that when he first met Will Grier in the Panthers. So I assumed he'd get more time, but clearly reports are the game's too fast for him. He didn't develop well, and that's fine. Yeah. It happens. But Carolina, to me, having 3 young dudes, I'm very odd that I think they're going to get another top 5 quarterback. And I'm like, figure it out with what you got. Yep. I think Bridgewater's a good quarterback.
Atlanta has said they're invested in Ryan.
Yep.
So I didn't put a question mark there. I think Ryan is the season for them, unless they get blown away with an offer for him, and or they flip the script and they get a quarterback in the draft. I don't think they do. I think if you don't go defense with the number 4 pick, you're an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like Atlanta, that's where you need help.
Their defense is bad.
Then you got Seattle, Rams, Arizona, San Fran, Wilson, Stafford, Murray. Starters. Yeah. Like, no questions asked. Wilson has said, I need help, and blah, blah,
even with
blah.
the reports that Seattle might trade Wilson?
Yeah, well, I look at it as if you trade him, I think it's before June 1st or after June 1st, he costs you $39 million in dead money.
You know what happens if they trade him? You know who the starter is?
Oh, no.
Your boy Geno Smith.
No, Geno Smith.
I'm kidding.
And then San Fran has been linked to every single quarterback that is being dangled.
Yeah.
And Jimmy G is their starter. He is under contract, but they don't owe him any money. So he could be cut easily and or traded.
I think the Jimmy G boat sailed. I think the hype on him was really high, and I think it died really fast.
I think you got to understand, he got you to the Super Bowl, and he just can't stay healthy.
Carson Wentz.
He got you to the Super Bowl, though.
He reminds me of Carson Wentz. I still think they're both talented.
But
he needs a change of scenery.
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 teams.
And I bet you a few others surprise you still.
Right, but that would surprise me. But 14 teams with question marks at quarterback. 14 teams that would love to have a new quarterback for them. And I'm looking at it as with Stafford and Goff already switching, that's 16 quarterbacks that are on different teams. And to me, this is make or break time for teams like Washington, Chicago, Indianapolis, New England. If you make the wrong decision, you're setting your franchise back years. And
I'm not going to be a homer here. Dallas, too. You're in a situation, too. Paying him could set your franchise back if he doesn't perform what you want him to be. The 5, 6 teams, almost every team on here has to make the right decition.
Right. New Orleans
has to make the right decision.
I don't think they have faith in Hill. Now, Bridgewater came in there, was there, and he balled out when Breeze was out.
Yeah.
Hill didn't. They won, but Hill didn't play. Yeah. You couldn't play that offense that Hill is playing would not last 16 games.
No, my point is, I think maybe they like him better. Maybe they have something personal against Winston's 30 interceptions. But I think if you're going to move in your New Orleans, you actually have to have a quarterback starting.
Yeah.
No offense to Taysom Hill, he's not a quarterback.
No.
You need to have a quarterback playing. That's like having Edelman playing quarterback. That's essentially what it's like.
Yeah.
And Edelman can throw the ball. He's done it before. That's what it reminds me of. And I'm like, you want to roll with Edelman as the quarterback for the Patriots? That's what it reminds me of. It would just be weird.
It's one of those things where also the top teams in the draft, like McShay came out with his mock draft and he said 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 7 or something like that. And I'm just looking at it. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I don't get it. If I'm the Jets, I don't pick a quarterback that high, especially if I have Darnold for one more year.
Especially if you're one of the highest rated tackles coming out of college in the last 10 years.
I build
right there.
I build the team differently. You're the tackle you just drafted last year.
Becton.
He is one of the best tackles in the league already. And you can build an offensive line. I mean, you need running back. You need wide receivers.
And that's where the $80 million in cap hopefully comes in. You can lure people in there.
And like Cincinnati's linked to Sewell because Sewell's dropping because it's reported that all these teams are picking somebody else. You want Devontae Smith. You got Chase. I don't know his first name. Jamar Chase. You've got the linebacker from somebody that is up there also. And
so the dude from Penn State.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now either. We were linked to him too, but he ain't going to fall that far.
Cincinnati's linked to Sewell. I would love that. But what I even mentioned, and I've read a bunch of articles saying Cincinnati is all in on veteran offensive linemen that are free agents. Mm-hmm. And they've already said they will overpay. And they're linked heavily to the tight end from Florida, Pitts, to draft at number 5.
Well, that's how Cincinnati's going to win, is you got to get that offensive line that's horrid. You got to get it better.
Yes, and my thing is if you can grab a couple offensive linemen off free agency, and then you could build that offense up and you can get that pass-catching tight end that everybody's, you have Higgins, you have Boyd, I don't think you need a wide receiver. If you're going to draft offense, you're either drafting an offensive line or you're drafting the tight end. You don't draft one of these wide receivers.
They'll take a 3rd, 4th round wide receiver. Everybody does.
Yeah, what I'm saying is not that high, not top 5.
They don't need it.
Right. And, and then you look at other teams down the line. Like, I can see, if...
The only way I'm Bengals, if I'm Cincinnati, what pick do you guys have? 3?
5.
You have 5. So if Sewell goes at 2, that linebacker at 3 for Penn State goes, and then someone else goes at 4, then I would be like, all right, let's take Chase or the wide receiver because he'd be the best available player. Does that make sense? Or Pitts. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would say if Sewell's there, you're excited. But I said if Sewell and that linebacker are gone, I wouldn't take the second best tackle rated at the 15th position just because you're at 5. You got to take the best player. Even if it ends up being a wide receiver, you're still going to be building the O-line in the free agency. So Cincinnati's going to want Sewell, or they're going to want Pitts, or they're going to want, I want to say it's not Mack. I keep thinking that, but it's not. The guy from Penn State. I'll remember who it is. I'm going to find out. This is going to bother me, but...
But I look at the draft is going to be interesting. Free agency is going to be interesting. The trades, I think we're going to be very disappointed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I listed all these things here where teams could trade and teams could change quarterbacks. There's also a possibility that nothing changes.
There's a big possibility.
Where Indianapolis, doesn't get the veteran that they want. New England doesn't get the guy they want. There's a possibility where, Washington does go with Allen and Heineke. Mm-hmm. And you just see what you have. And because you don't want to give up the capital for what some of these players are going to cost you.
So the one you were talking about, that we're talking about from Penn State, is Micah Parsons.
Yes.
He, this is just a CBS draft, but he's projected in the 10th pick, so to Dallas. And you guys are projected with this one, and all the ones I see is Devontae Smith. So a lot of them have you guys still taking wide receivers. That's mocks. We don't know what Zach Taylor's going to do. I'm just saying that's what they have. But this is what one of them is. Trevor Lawrence at 1, Penei Sewell at 2. Dolphins taking Slater, an offensive tackle.
Northwestern?
Yeah, he's good. Then Zach Wilson to the Falcons. Again, if you're keeping, what's his name, Matt Ryan, you're not picking a quarterback at 4. You could tell me if I'm wrong because you watch football longer than me. Has anybody taken quarterback in the top 5 and not started them in that year?
Yeah.
Really?
Tua. Herbert
started his first year?
He started his first year, but he didn't start right away. But he wouldn't have started if Tyrod Taylor didn't get hurt. They would have rode Tyrod Taylor for 5 or 6 games. Tua didn't come in until... week 5?
I guess you are right.
So,
but that's what I'm saying. But I think if you're somebody like that, I think if you are the Falcons here, I think that's when you would absolutely just jump early and you would take Micah Parsons, that linebacker, or the Farley kid that's the cornerback. But and then Mac Jones, they have him at 8. That's what I'm saying. And they have Justin Fields going to freaking Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't...
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, that's the problem. And I'm going to say this real quick. We love mock drafts. We love doing these things. These mock drafts are crazy because we could get to pick 10, Dallas picks Micah Parsons, and the next quarterback doesn't go till DC in 19. There's a chance that nobody goes besides Lawrence.
But that's the thing. Like, if I'm looking at it as, if I'm on one of those top teams, if I'm the Jets, who picks 3? Carolina?
No, number 3 is the Dolphins.
Okay, so Jets, Miami, Carolina, Atlanta, Cincinnati.
Sorry, it's Jaguars, Jets, Miami, then Falcons,
and then Cincinnati, and then okay,
Philly.
I don't pick one of these quarterbacks. I pick Lawrence. That's it. All the other quarterbacks have too many question marks to take in the top 10.
I agree.
And I understand Mac Jones had a great senior game. I understand that Fields is, talented. I understand that Wilson has got good arm strength. I understand that these guys are, head and shoulders above, but they're not. They're all grouped together after Lawrence. So why are you wasting a top pick on somebody that isn't a guarantee? If I'm Atlanta, I need defense. So I pick that linebacker. If I'm the Jets, yes, it's smart to get Sewell. And if I'm Miami, it's smart to get that other offensive lineman because that's what you need. But Miami also needs wide receiver. So I see Miami taking a shot at Chase or Smith.
I see them
over
taking
an
Smith.
Offensive lineman.
I would see them taking Smith because of his connection with Tua already.
And if I'm Cincinnati, I'm not taking a wide receiver. I'm not. I'm heavy at wide receiver. I'm weak at tight end. I'm weak at O-line, and I'm weak on defense. So you're not going to waste a top 5 pick on a wide receiver. You can't.
Unless Zach Taylor looks at the position y'all are in and Sewell and Micah Parsons and Pitts all went before you some odd reason, then the best player available is Chase or is Smith, and you could trade down, yeah.
Trade down.
But if Zach Taylor thinks, I've been told that Smith and Chase are the real deal. These are legit.
They're the real deal, but so's Boyd and so's Higgins.
But you need 3 wide receivers on your roster.
You have you have multiple wide receivers on your team that barely played this year.
I know. So and nothing against the Bengals, but I'm saying Higgins and Boyd are great wide receivers, but are they overly number 1 category wide receivers?
Yes, Higgins is a number 1 wide receiver.
On Ramsey all day?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, on Ramsey, nobody's a number 1 wide receiver.
But I'm saying
against the NFL, yes. T. Higgins is going to be a number 1 wide receiver. Tyler Boyd has already proven that he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Okay. He's reliable. You just got to put him in his position that he needs to be.
The reason I was asking is you're going to be playing at the X position where A.J. Green was half the year. You're going to be playing on everybody's number 1 corner. Yeah. What happens when a lot of wide receivers are at 2, they move to 1, they don't play as good.
Okay.
So that's why I was saying I'm not saying they're not good.
But you don't draft a wide receiver there. You don't draft a wide receiver at 5. You don't. And if they do, I am going to be thoroughly upset because they are so weak at so many other positions. Wide receiver is not a position of weakness. It's not. And I'd rather have the offensive lineman from Northwestern. Yeah. I'd rather have Pitts. I'd rather have the top defensive corner. I don't want you guys to take a linebacker because it is one of those things where that's what is needed. Yeah. More.
I don't want you guys to take a wide receiver either. You have free agency still to do that if you needed to. You don't need to do that in the draft. What I'm just saying is that they wouldn't be ranked in the top 5 if they weren't valuable. And all the mock drafts have the people.
I'm not saying they're not valuable. I'm just saying it's not a need.
Yeah.
And your first pick has to be a need.
Yeah.
And they say, well, you're going to reach for somebody else, technically. But technically, if you're going to have 4 quarterbacks drafted before you, you're going to have 5 or 6 players that should have been in the top 5 that weren't.
If 3 quarterbacks go before the Bengals, I'm jumping up and down for joy if I'm the Bengals.
It's one of those things. And if it falls the way, you just
most
said.
Mock drafts, yeah.
And the Bengals don't get Sewell, okay. I would be happy with the offensive lineman from Northwestern because they said the kid from Northwestern is, just it's 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
So I would, these mock drafts I look at and they don't take into account trades. They don't take into account anything. It's just what these guys, and they say, oh, well, we've talked to teams. Okay, I get it. You've talked to teams. But not a single team GM and or assistant GM and or maintenance guy is going to legit tell you what they're actually thinking.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you, I love Jamar Chase. I love him. He's a great talent.
I think
would love to have him on our team. Okay, yeah, that makes sense because everybody would love.
I think in pre-draft stuff, why they do mocks like this is because they look on the roster and they look at I think a lot of times they look at names, okay? I like Boyd, and I like the other wide receiver. You guys have Higgins. I like them. But I think on paper, their names people don't boom, instantly think of a top 20 wide receiver when they were quietly really good. Does that make sense? They don't have a name like Keelan or Keenan, Julio, Devontae. They don't have names like that. So I think a lot of them go, well, they don't have A.J. Green no more. Who are they going to throw to? And I'm agreeing with you. Their wide receivers are really good. But I think they're comparing these people because these two wide receivers could easily replace both the two you have as a starter. That's what they say. I'm not saying that's true. But what I'm saying is you could get one of these dudes and pass on and be like, man, that really sucks. And you got that tackle, which is great. And then this wide receiver has a Jefferson-type season.
You know what these mock drafts are good for?
Nothing.
No, you know what they're good for? This.
I guess you're right.
The NFL pays people to do mock drafts.
Yeah.
So the NFL is talked about
all year long. That makes sense.
And they are the smartest league in the, and I'm not saying that these mock drafts don't have merit. But again, you have these mock drafts. Like even in basketball, you technically have like people doing mock drafts of but it's actually legit where these players actually might go. Like, you're going to have players falling. You're going to have players not going where these mock drafts have them. And these guys are grading these players. Yeah, this is a deep draft. This draft has a lot of talent in it. But that doesn't mean they're going to go where they say they're going to go or anything. And a team like the Bengals isn't going to say anything bad about Jamar Chase, about Devontae Smith. They're not going to say anything bad. They're going to say, oh, we would love to have them on our team. And what teams do, especially at the top, hey, I'm taking this guy.
Yeah.
Who wants him? What are you going to offer me? Because trading in the NFL is so much easier than it is trading in any other sport also. Because, especially draft picks. Because you can jockey all you want. And so I look at it as mock drafts are made for TV shows to banter, to talk about, to debate. And it's just like this whole thing, like it's going to be ad nauseum again this year talking about Dak. And it's going to be to the point where you just get sick of it. It's just like, let's figure it out already. Like, Dallas is in the news because, Dak, and they made a hype video, and it didn't have Dak in it. Okay. It had a lot of old players in it that won Super Bowls in the 90s that are Hall of Famers right now. It didn't have a lot of the current players in it.
I think the only current player I saw DeMarcus Lawrence. I saw DeMarcus Ware. Zeke was in there, and then Amari Cooper was in there. Yeah. So, sorry, Dak wasn't in there, but this is my thing. Anybody follow these athletes on social media? Dak was like, that's a sick-ass hype video. He commented on it. He didn't say, where am I at? This is BS. I want to play for someone else.
And his brother just wants to be a celebrity.
Well, that's the problem. His brother's been like that for a long time. The brother has made, I won't get into it on the show, but the brother has made a lot of comments about Dallas, about the way Dak's treated, and Dak's like, of course Dak loves his brother, but his brother has said something along the lines of why he doesn't think Dak's gotten signed has a lot to do with where they come from and what they look like. He thinks that Jerry's not signing him because of who Dak is. And his brother said that on Twitter the other day, and I was like, you're going to get a lot of heat for this and make Dak end up hating you for that, because I truly don't think NFL owners don't sign people because of where they come from and what they look like.
No.
I really don't think that's the case.
No.
Dak's not getting signed because of what he looks like, because he's not Romo. Dak's not getting signed because Dak is winning right now, and Jerry doesn't want to overpay. So it's going to end up, somebody's going to get bit in the butt.
Well, Jerry will overpay. It's just got to be on Jerry's terms.
It's got to be on Jerry's terms.
And Dak wants to get overpaid, but on Dak's terms.
Exactly.
So that's the pissing match right
here. It's
called
a chess battle.
And Jerry Jones didn't become a billionaire because he gave in and wasn't the best negotiator at the table.
Yep.
It's, and
I do want to say something as we finish up here, and it has nothing to do with my love for Dallas. It has something with my disdain for Dallas. I'll put it here on the podcast. Dallas will never win a Super Bowl with Jerry Jones as the owner right now. He has too money invested. It reminds me of the Knicks, and I'll tell you why. The Knicks always sell the most tickets. They always sell the most jerseys. They always sell the most hats. I was in Barbados, and everyone had Knicks jerseys on. They don't even know who the hell the Knicks were, but they had Knicks jerseys on. So the same thing with Dallas. As long as Dallas is making money, and he's making bank, and Jerry Jones is the richest franchise in the sport, he will not put a good football team on the field. As I had this conversation with a friend of mine, he said, when do you think Dallas wins? When Jerry Jones actually accepts the 23rd offer from Troy Aikman to be the GM. He's asked every year, hire me as your GM so you can focus on your big-ass yacht and have fun. He's like, nope, I want to do it. I want to be there. And the problem is, when we win a game, who do you hear talking after a game win?
Yeah, it's
It's,
just
you never
that's
hear the coach talking. You never hear Dak talking. And as somebody from a Dallas fan, I don't think as long as Jerry's got money in his pockets, we're going to win because he's not a smart owner. He's not a smart. Well, he's a smart owner when it comes to money, but he's not a good manager. And I'm going to put it here. I love picking Dallas. I love being one of those fans. But they're not going to be relevant until he actually puts somebody in charge of football operations that understands football. That's not a rich oil guy. So until then, that's my last take on my Cowboys.
All right.
So that's what I want to say. The other thing I wanted to add to, this is between me and you, not a bad thing. Do you want for our fans for us to do our own mock draft a couple episodes? First full round?
I don't know enough about college football to do that. I don't know the names. I don't know.
Do our
anything.
Hans and Mark 1.0 type thing, but if you don't know enough, it's fine.
I really don't. And,
That's fine.
I may know, like I know guys because of what they're saying the Bengals might pick.
Yeah.
I don't know players like that. You can.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it, and we'll see what's going on.
Maybe I'll do one and we'll talk about it.
I don't know enough about college football players coming out. I know the top players. And then I know who the Bengals are slotted to look at. And so that's who I would look at. That's who I study up on and learn. That's how I know the kid from Northwest. I don't know his name, but I know that he's 1A and 1B with Sewell.
Yeah.
And I think he really got up to 1B because he played this year and Sewell didn't. Yeah. So there's more tape on this kid, and he's a beast,
huge, dude.
Sewell they say is a game changer. They said he's the comparisons are Hall of Fame left tackles that they are comparing him to, and that isn't something that you hear all the time.
That's not something you throw around loosely.
Right.
It also reminds me a lot of what's his name? I can't think of who I'm thinking of, but he's going to remind people a lot of this other kid in Alabama that's going to come out in another year. I watched like 2 Alabama games this year, and I watched one, and I cleaned my eyes or something like rubbing was, and I had to look twice. This dude is 6'9", 355, and he's a right tackle. He's a sophomore. Dude, he is so huge. These tackles are getting so big, and it's like he's going to be, I get you, number one, top 5 pick because of his size. He doesn't have to have good footwork. You're not running through somebody that big. It's not going to happen.
But you do have, in the NFL, you do have to have good footwork, good handwork, because
he's in Alabama, so I would say he probably knows his footwork. Alabama's good at a lot of things.
Oh, no, and that's the thing. But but other than that, I mean, it's going to be interesting, this NFL offseason. It's not going to kick up for another few weeks.
No.
And then we got, the NBA's picking up where the NBA's getting interesting. College basketball, March Madness is going to be starting up soon. And I am so excited that Duke will not be in March Madness this year. Mm-hmm. They lost again yesterday, and they're 7-8, and they'll probably still make the tournament as a, one of those 64 teams in play-in game or something like that, just because
make a play-in
Duke.
Game. And then want to make it to the Sweet 16.
But it is
it's gonna be fun.
College basketball has been fun to watch this year, fun to pay attention to, and
it's been great.
Other than that, everybody have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good week, guys.